Hi, I'm McGinlay and today I'm going to be talking about my community mapping presentation for my community development at Glasgow University. Today I'm going to be talking about the activities for my community mapping which was delivered within the Denniston, Haghill and Parkhead area of Glasgow, which is in the East End. I chose these areas because I'm currently in placement within a recovery sector. The purpose of this map is to get to know the communities through direct engagement rather than relying on desk research or assumptions. The focus is listening to community voices, lived experience and knowledge. During the presentation, I'll talk about the key assets and the gaps that I have identified, and also the pressures of cost of living, mental health and addiction. I'm currently on placement with Blue Veil Rife, which is a recovery charity, and part of my role is to engage with the community and through mindfulness sessions, creativity, recovery groups and meditation. And I also signpost them to other groups and help to offer other services within the community. The Denniston, Haghill and Parkhead areas are included in the data research of the Scottish Multiple Index, and also this involves insecurities around unemployment, education and health. For this approach, I used an asset-based community development. This includes focusing on the strengths, the skills, the knowledge and the resources that already exist within the community, and viewing the community members as valuable contributors with knowledge and lived experience to share. Lived experience, local knowledge and informal networks were also valued as important community assets. Through the mapping, I felt at times the community was half full with the potential to grow, with connecting partnerships and local connectors together, and it would be better connected and supported area. Throughout the mapping process, I engaged with the communities through informal and formal strategies. I had surveys, informal chats, I held a community meeting and also engaged with other organisations, and the focus was on direct engagement, listening to lived experience and knowledge of others, and also to try and get a wide range of services to help people who are experiencing mental health, addiction or struggling with the cost of living. The mapping also highlighted a range of community assets within the area, including community centres and hubs such as the Barrowfield Centre or the Parkhead Hub that offer wellbeing services, learning opportunities and also social connection. Parks and green spaces were also identified, such as Alexandra Park, which are very important assets to support physical and mental wellbeing. Food banks and community meal services were especially important, particularly given the current cost of living crisis. Recovery and wellbeing services included peer support services, played a key role in supporting those in recovery. Libraries and faith spaces and cultural organisations were also identified as accessible community hubs that offer support, routine and also connection. Alongside the strengths, there were several gaps and barriers identified. The loss of local venues such as the Blue Veil Community Hall and the Whitehill Pool meant there was fewer access to safe spaces for wellbeing and recovery. Barriers around transport, accessibility and safety were also highlighted, particularly women. They raised concerns around safety and mobility, which was limiting their engagement to community activities. Some groups were also harder to engage, for example working parents, older generation or isolated residents. This highlighted the importance of having low barrier, accessible, safe and preventative spaces that feel safe and accessible for a wide range of different people. One gap that became particularly noticeable was the lack of visible ethnic minority representation within the recovery spaces. As part of the mapping, I visited a local mosque to explore opportunities for conversations around recovery and mental health. However, I was informed at that moment that addiction was not seen as a significant issue within that community, and this led to me to reflect on the cultural sensitivity and being able to build up relationships before going in to ask questions. There were some main themes throughout the mapping process, and that was the stress around the cost of living crisis, addiction and mental health. And these issues are also interconnected, and financial stress was linked to anxiety and low moods, whereas mental health challenges were linked to vulnerability and addiction was linked to social isolation. This shows the need for more partnerships and more community-based responses to address multiple issues at once. The cost of living pressures were most dominant across the mapping. People spoke about food insecurity, low income and unemployment, and the rising cost of living. These pressures had direct impact on mental health and their well-being. Most people described that they had reduced ability to engage socially and take part in community life due to financial stress. Food banks, low-cost cafes and community meals were described as essential services, although demand is high and places a lot of pressure on current organisations. Through the mapping process, there was a link between addiction and mental health. Safe, informal and peer-led spaces were noticed in the community, particularly supporting those in recovery. For example, the CA and the AA meetings. Community support was also noticed, and this is valued because this reduces stigma and creates a sense of belonging and understanding. The loss of venues, for example the Blue Veil Hall and the White Hill Pool, increased isolation and stigma and access barriers continued to affect those who are more marginalised. One of the case studies involves a woman in recovery who stays in Hag Hill, who attended recovery groups primarily just for connection and peer support. Through this, she gained the confidence and recognised her own strengths and became interested in volunteering and other training opportunities. The next case study involved a man who is a Denniston resident. He also was attending wellbeing and activity groups to create a routine and purpose in his life. He highlighted the closure of the White Hill Pool as a major loss to the community. The third case study involves a woman in recovery, and she's also from the Denniston area, and she attends peer support and community-led recovery groups. She also volunteers with the Kins Trust and also local food banks. She won a Community Champion Award in 2025, which highlights her contribution to the local community. She also highlighted the lack of awareness around activities, available services, and the limited support options at weekends, showing how lived experience itself is a valuable community asset. The mapping also identified several opportunities for community development work in the future. These included protecting and reopening community spaces, strengthening local partnerships and bringing them together, and also signposting to other services. There was also evidence of strong community advocacy and willingness for local people to come together through campaigns such as the White Hill Pool campaign and also for collective action. To conclude, this mapping process showed me that Denniston, Hag Hill and Parkhead are resilient areas with strong community assets. However, there's also significant pressure remaining around the cost of living crisis, addiction and mental health. And the loss of accessible local spaces has had a real impact on people's well-being. Overall, the mapping reinforced the importance of listening directly to the residents and local service users, engaging with lived experience and findings to help plan out the future for community development, and also for partnerships and community-led initiatives that build on the existing structures and strengths while identifying possible gaps. Thank you.